Okay, hello. I wanted to make a video on Hero Siege. I don't believe I've done a video on it quite yet, and I did actually want to talk about it because I did play it for a while, and I do still plan on continuing to play it for a while. I've been playing it a little bit with one of my friends, and then I've been meeting some strangers recently in a game, and just having a little bit of time in it, and I just wanted to share my experiences on it so far based off of everything that I've just been experiencing with it. Also, I did not post anything yesterday. Some stuff happened, and I was just not at my PC pretty much all of yesterday. So today, there's actually going to be two posts. This is one of them, just giving the heads up on it now. So for anybody that doesn't really know what Hero Siege is, from my understanding after reading the Steam reviews, it used to be some kind of like roguelike or maybe Souls-like, but something happened where they ended up turning their game into an ARPG. Is that completely true? I have no idea. That's just what I saw in the reviews before I officially got the game. And then when I did get the game, it is definitely more of an ARPG. It feels pretty cool. The concept so far seems pretty nice. I'm at the very beginning of the game. I've heard people kind of compare it to Diablo as well as Path of Exile. And in that case, I could see where they're coming from. There's a skill tree. The skill tree isn't super massive. You have two classes for your character so far from what I've seen in the beginning of the game. I'd say for starters, the highest level I've gotten to so far is about 30. And the highest area I've gotten in the game so far is about the pyramid area. And I'm stuck there right now, but I'll get into that a little later on. So basically, you have like, I think there's like 20 characters, maybe 16 characters, and each character has two different classes, and you can pick from which tree, like each class is split up into its own tree. You can pick out of each tree what powers you want. And in order to get, the powers further on down, you have to pick the previous powers that connect to it. So you're branching towards whatever power it is that you actually want to use for your character. Outside of that, certain powers have this plus indicator on top of them. And this plus indicator is essentially a way to further touch what that power can actually do. So maybe turning a fire power into lightning, or cutting the cooldown time in half or something of that sort. It's got that. It kind of reminds me of Last Epoch in that regard, and I think that that's pretty cool. I don't believe it happens for every individual ability, just a certain set of them. But it's still cool either way. And apparently, you get those skill points after like every 5 levels. So by like level 30. In that alternate skill tree on top of your main skill tree, you can put in like 5 points or 6 points, something of that sort. And it just keeps going with the higher the level you hit. There's a loot filter, which I thought was pretty cool. It seems a little confusing to me, to be honest. Loot filters in games in general seem pretty confusing to me. So I use certain YouTubers and links and whatnot to kind of filter out what it is I want to do for my character. And I also use certain YouTubers' builds to kind of figure out what it is I want to do for my character, since I'm just now starting the game. So far in the early phases of the game, you can change your you can like reset your skill tree, reset your attributes, and your attributes are kind of like your base passives for your character, and your skill tree, well, that's how you get your skills and everything. While playing through the game, there are some pretty cool things that I've seen. You get these things called relics, and they're basically items that you can use, not just consumables, but actually like items that can replace your entire skill set. For example, I have 3 characters so far. One's around 30, one's around 20-ish, and then another's around 20-ish. And with each of these characters, they each have relics. Some relics are kind of like spur of the moment. They happen under a certain set of circumstances, so you don't really have to worry about them. They run passively. As you can see, I have like a little angel flying around me. I guess that would be one of them. But there are other relics, like, for example, I have one on my other character that makes it so that I can drop like bars of soap from the sky, and there's no cooldown on me being able to drop bars of soap from the sky. So I can drop, I kid you not, like as many times as I can click or hold down or whatever the case may be, and those bars of soap will fall from the sky constantly. And one of my characters had a really like hard time balancing out mana for the build I was following. So that bars of soap skill I was able to use, and it doesn't take mana at all. So I had a skill that replaced all of my attacks because there was no cooldown. It did a ton of damage, and it wasn't a long startup to actually use. So it would just happen, which made it very powerful. And I enjoyed it for a very long time until I started, trying to learn the game a little bit more and remap my skills out and see what I could do with what I had. But yeah, so you have other ways to choose different ways to fight, and it's not really centered around the bare like idea of what your skills give you, because you can find things as you play, which I thought was really cool. For whatever reason, the theme of this game seems to be satanic. So a lot of like characters will reference or talk about Satan in some kind of way. And if they don't, then like the gear that you can pick up can be satanic, which is, I guess, supposed to be the highest tier of gear that you can get. And you can get it at a pretty low level, and it just starts rising the further on you go. And this gear gives some pretty crazy stats, and it looks really cool too. So yeah, that was definitely interesting to me. You When you pick up gear, you don't actually see the gear on your character. Like, it doesn't change your clothes or your armor or anything like that. The only thing that really changes is your weapon in hand. You can have charms, which are kind of like an added on piece of gear that you can put on your character that will stack over to your overall stats. And I suppose later on can change things about your build completely, which I think can be pretty cool. The game lets you move with WASD, but you can also use the mouse and like to click around and move, which I thought was pretty cool too. And I think that's just some of the bare bones. You just, run through dungeons, pick up quests, turn those quests in. The game isn't super clear about where to turn those quests in at, how to turn those quests in. You kind of just touch and go and figure stuff out as you explore and move around. And chances are, if one area is completely cleared and you've looked at everything, you still can't figure out where to go, you probably need to go to the next area. Or you probably need to go into a specific dungeon or something like that. My friends and I, it took us a little bit of time to figure out that is where like our next set of moves needs to be. So yeah, there's an all chat, and the all chat is out of pocket. I forget exactly what the very first message was that I saw when I logged into the game and started playing, but it was something super goofy. It was something like some dude here. I'd saved it in my Discord. Let me see if I can pull it up because I typed it. Somebody was asking about socketing jewels. There it is. Just randomly, right? On my first day playing, which apparently was around 5:30:26, but today it's 6:25:26. But one guy said in all chat in global, what's the difference between a cut jewel and an uncut jewel? Right? Because I'm assuming he's out here trying to figure out what these two different jewels do, how they affect your game, what it is you can do in a game, blah, blah, blah. And almost right after that, another guy replies, what's the difference between a cut and an uncut cock? And I was like, yep, I think I'm going to like this game, right? Just off rip, something tells me these psychopaths are going to be just like Path of Exile or Path of Exile 2, where they come in saying the most out-of-pocket stuff for no reason. So, yeah. I guess you can expect that if you're in all chat. If you leave your room open, people can join in, which, by the way, that was something that was kind of different to me as well. You create a room and you run the game kind of like Torchlight 2, rather than just, like, joining a random server and inviting randoms to your game. You could choose to put a password on it. You could choose to have X amount of people in it. Random people can join your game all the time. Majority of the time when people do join your game, they talk to you and either try to help you by boosting you through content, like power level you, which is actually really cool and really nice. I don't know if that's detrimental to you or not, because it's my first time playing a game. I turned down a lot of people offering to power level me or just playing along with me because I was trying to learn the game, and I felt like I wasn't really going to get anywhere if somebody tried to push me to end game, right? Even if it would help me in a season, it's like I want to learn what I'm doing, right? So I turned that down, but I did make some friends, and I ran into some people who were new to the game, just like me, and who were trying to give me tips based off the stuff that they learned. And I ran into some more people who were new to the game, just like me, and who were already in the end game, and so they were trying to give me tips off of what they learned. So I mean, the community as a whole, outside of the Jewel situation, seems to be a pretty helpful bunch. This game, in terms of microtransactions, is really crazy. So far, I haven't ran into anything that comes off as pay to win or like tries to shove microtransactions down your throat. I saw a Steam review where somebody was saying that that was the case, and that made me a little iffy and concerned originally. But when I actually got into the game, that just was not the case at all. There is a shop, and there's a lot of customizations you can get in the shop, which I thought was really cool. You can pick different pets in the shop. I think you get one for free, but I'm unsure. You can have different pets in the shop. You can have different skins for your characters. One of my characters I got a maid outfit for, but there's a handful of characters who have a maid outfit, like a theme, kind of like how League of Legends does themes for their characters. There's one character, I think he's like the white mage. He's got this really cool skin where he's like a pope, and I don't know if he's like a streamer who calls himself the Pope, or if he's like the actual Pope. I have no idea, but the picture always makes my friends and I laugh because of how crazy it is compared to all the other pictures. And it's an actual skin in the game. When things go on sale in the game and you see them go on sale on Steam, they're actually super cheap. So skins that would be like $7 or $15, you can get for sale for like $2 or $1 or $5, which I thought was really cool. They also have DLC characters, and it turns out a good portion of the DLC characters are now free, so they're still on sale on Steam. Don't entirely know why. I ended up buying them when I first got the game. Turns out you don't need them. Oh well. And yeah, a lot of what I've seen in terms of microtransaction has purely been pay for cosmetics. Outside of that, like I said, I haven't gotten into the super deep part of the game to really be able to explain everything that could be wrong with the game. Just playing off of some of the beginning of the game that I played, I'd say some things that kind of bothered me was that you couldn't put any skill into any slot, right? They kind of lock, I guess, your left click and maybe your right click to certain skills, so you can't put everything in there. If you decide to move with WASD, it can only be a certain set of skills or type of skills, I suppose. Certain gear just felt a little confusing to read in terms of what it is I needed to pick up to kind of like focus towards my build. Even with the loot filter, I was juggling what would actually do damage that I would need and what would actually be helpful. And some people talk about satanic gear being better than anything, but I guess it's kind of like legendaries or uniques where that's not entirely the case. I don't know. I'm still figuring that out. You can reset maps, which I thought was really cool. I guess that would be the general gist, outside of being stuck at a certain point in the game right now, which is kind of what's been keeping me off for a little bit of time. But I'm sure if I applied myself, I could actually figure it out. I feel like looking for quests is a little jarring. If there was some kind of indicator that specifically showed it, it would be easier. I know when you open the map, there's a giant like exclamation point on your screen, like over that area, but sometimes I'll have that exclamation point in areas where I don't believe I have any quests at, so I'm not entirely sure what quest they're trying to get me to complete in those areas, and that can be a little confusing. I've heard people say that you can get a good chunk of gold from doing quests and whatnot as you play, and I've kind of noticed that the areas that I play in are like for lower levels, and I'm a little bit of a higher level than the areas that I play in. And when I get closer to reaching my level, these monsters do a ridiculous amount of damage. So it kind of feels like you're supposed to be in these lower levels grinding things out, I guess, until you don't really get the EXP anymore. But I'm trying to catch up to my actual level, but it is a slap in the face once you start getting closer to the level you're supposed to be at, right? Like, I could be 25 fighting in like a level 14 area, and they hurt like they're 25s, meaning that when I get to a 25, they'll probably one-shot me, but I guess I won't know until I get there, right? So Yeah, that's been my review so far on the game. I haven't played it deep enough or far enough to really get a really good understanding down. Kind of just been hopping around characters, seeing how the playstyles differ, trying out some builds that I've been reading up on, and seeing what's fun. And all while doing that, playing with friends and talking to strangers, and yeah, just getting it all down. But yeah, that's been it so far. So peace.